and welcome. I'm Elaine Canyon, sweetly writing happily ever after, one book at a time. And in this video, I've got tips and tricks for discovery writers. So in this video, I wanted to talk about how to get unstuck as a discovery writer. One of the most common things that I hear given in the writer's block advice is to go back to your outline. And when you're a discovery writer, that advice is really unhelpful. It doesn't help you at all to be told, well, just go back to your outline when you don't have an outline to start with. So before we jump in, I want to clarify that this is going to be kind of a fun video and that I'm going to give you a lot of ideas. I'm going to give you some stuff to play with. I'm going to tell you things that are helpful to me and things that aren't helpful to me. We're going to review a few products. But if you are really actually stuck, as in like you haven't been able to write for a very long time, I'm going to send you, and the link will be in the description, to Becca Syme's video called The Stuck List. And she's the person to go to if you're actually having some really in-depth, stuck in the mud, haven't been able to write for like months or something like that. This video is fun. This video is meant to be fun. I'm going to show you some cool things. I'm going to show you stuff that I like to use. I will warn you that a lot of it is ways to procrastinate while your brain thinks over what it needs to do next. But all that being said, if you are actually stuck and you've been stuck for a long time, please go check out Becca's video because that's a much more helpful thing for you than this right here. This is, like I said, meant to be fun. So let's jump in. Let's have some fun. So I'm going to show you some of the fun products that I have and the ways that I like to use them. So one of the first things is scrying stones. So they come in a bag like this, and they have different elements on them. And so you can get ones that will give you different locations. They're meant for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but I have a lot of family members that do and a lot of friends that do. I have tried in the past. I have some control issues and I don't like being, not being in control. I don't like not being in control. So Dungeons and Dragons for me is a little hard, or any role-playing game where somebody else is the game master or the dungeon master. But these dice are fun because they give you like different locations. This one's got different terrain. This one has different things you can give to a character, items to give to a character. All of these are a lot of fun because what they'll do is they'll give you something to introduce to your story. And oftentimes when I use these, I don't end up introducing the item it tells me to, but it does get my brain thinking. So for example, I was stuck in the manuscript I'm currently working on, and I wasn't sure what to have happen next. I knew things were going really well for the characters, and I needed something to throw a wrench in there. So I started rolling these dice, and I ended up finding a lot of options, and none of them were right. But because of what the options got my mind thinking of, I finally figured out what needed to be introduced into the story. With that, I'd like to add really quick, if you're a discovery writer, time is helpful to you because remember, you are discovering the story as you write it, which means that your brain might need some time to think about what happens next and what to bring next into the story. So don't be afraid to use some of these things and don't call it procrastinating because sometimes your brain really does need this time to step back and have something to play with and have something to help get that creativity flowing so that it figures out what actually is next in your story. Because it might not be what's on here, but it might be something that you figure out because you were playing around with things. So the next thing I want to talk about are the Cthulhu creation cards. And these work the exact same way as the scrying stones. There are characters you can introduce, habitats, elements, relationships, traits, and textures. And I will be 100% straight up with you. I have these because they're pretty. Literally, that is why I bought them. They are pretty. Now, past that, they are actually kind of helpful in that they do have a whole bunch of great ideas of what to introduce into your story and things to help you. They have an app as well. The app is cheaper than buying the cards. But if you like to have just absolutely, oh, I'm going to drop that on the ground. If you like to have absolutely gorgeous fronts, and then these beautiful, beautiful pieces of artwork that are just so much fun to look at. And half the time, I will just go through the cards because they're pretty and they're fun, and it's nice to look at pretty things because I like to look at pretty things. So I would 100% suggest getting the app and going through the app and looking at the cards and getting it that way if having physical cards is not up your alley or not in your price range. It's cheaper to do it on the app. The physical cards, the boxes, each deck is $50, and the physical cards on the app are quite a bit less. So worthwhile to have the app if you need a cheaper version, and the art is the exact same and it's gorgeous. And there are a couple of decks that you can only get on the app. So I have both. I have the pretty cards and I have the app. Now remember, these are things that just get your brain thinking. These are things to play with in order to help you start moving forward. So another one of the things that I like to use and that I play with a lot is the Writer Emergency Pack. It is another deck of cards. Surprise, surprise. It's like I like things specific. So it's another deck of cards, and it goes through, and there's technically like a game and a way you can play it. I haven't done it. I have literally just gone through and read through cards and tried to find what would help me. But they have a whole list of different things that you can do. So you can do cause and effect, that gives you suggestions of, okay, we'll figure out ways that this action the last action that happened in your story can change what happens next. And then they've also got things like suggestions, like fight the giant. And so you can bring a giant in and that kind of stuff. So it's really they're just fun cards. They're fun to look at. They're fun to go through. And some of them are really helpful. And they'll walk you through different things to do. So like this one says, magnify, what is your hero feeling right now? And what are some tiny actions that might reveal it? Just to kind of get you writing and get you moving. These are also not genre specific. So it doesn't matter what genre you're writing in. Most of these will help you regardless. So this is one that I have, and it's not one that's been super helpful to me. This is more like a game than it is something to really help you get unstuck. If you like story games, this is a good option for you. So it'll like help you choose a protagonist, and it has a wheel here that you spin and it gives you protagonists. It'll help you get goals for them. It gives you obstacles and actions for them to go off of. It gives you cards that'll tell you like what to include in a scene, a man wearing a plate on his head. Like some of them are funny, some of them are mundane. So like this one's just a rusty weather vane. So it just depends on what cards you pull. It's a fun game. I think it would be a fun thing to play if you have a bunch of author friends over, and it would do well, but it doesn't do great for me in getting myself unstuck when I'm not sure what's coming next in a story. And then the last thing I have is a storyteller game called Synapsis. And these are fun just because the cards get some really great questions going and really can get you thinking about what is coming next in your story. So like this card says, what does the main character really, really need? And then I usually add after a card like that, how do I stop it? How do I make sure they don't get it? But then they also have fun words. So if you need like cards with words on them. So if you need help building from where you're at, oops. So if you need help building from where you're at, like this one says fly on it. And then it has a whole bunch of words around it, like butterfly, fly paper, flyer, flying saucer, fly fishing, just to get you thinking and playing off of what they give you, trying to get your brain to make those connections and jump from what they're giving you into your story. And then the last thing I have, and this one's just a lot of fun because I am a romance writer. I write in fantasy romance. So the two things that I end up using more often than not are my fantasy things, which are the Scrying Stones and the Cthulhu cards. And then this is called The Plot Thickens. It is the romance edition of this game, and it is a game. It absolutely is a game. But the cards are a lot of fun if you are a romance writer. And they build up on top of each other. So you've got romance things like this is a tryst, this is a whisper, Then you've got romance places, so you can do it at the wrong place, at a theater. A lot of these are more contemporary romance, but they do have some in there that work on other places. And then, oh, I'm gonna drop the box, that's what I'm gonna do. And then they've got people to include, so you can do an unwanted guest, and you could choose, is that the person that you're actually writing about, or is that someone who's coming in and throwing things off between your characters? And they've got War Hero and a whole bunch of other fun cards in here. This is just super fun. I play this game. This is one of the only writer things that I play. I have people I play this game with, and it's a hoot. So if you are a romance writer, I highly suggest the romance edition of The Plot Thickens. If you are not a romance writer, I know they have other variations of this game. It's a lot of fun. I would highly suggest it. Okay, so those are all of my fun things. If you are still stuck, I have a list that I've built off of all of these that I kind of go back to when I really do need to focus and I don't want to sit there and take the time to think. I'm going to put that list in the description below. So you can copy it and you can put it wherever you want it, wherever it's going to help you, and make it your own. Change it, shift it, make it appropriate for what you're doing. And then if you are really, really stuck, please go watch Becca Syme's video. It is much more helpful than all of this. This was fun. This is ways to get you thinking, because if you're a discovery writer, that's the number one thing. You just need to be able to keep pushing yourself forward so that as you are writing that story, your brain is awakening and opening up to what the next part of the story is. You're discovering this as you go. And I have found, at least for me, the number one thing that helps with that is to have lots of input until my brain goes, oh wait, that input reminds me of this thing over here, and this thing is actually what we need to do next in the story. So all of this was just a really fun way to give you ideas to dig in and find out what comes next in your story. If you have played any of these games or use any of these things, I want to know about it. Tell me down in the comments. If you have other things that you use that you're like, this is the most fun thing that I do to really awaken my brain and get into that story, let me know down below in the comments too. I'm always open for fun new things to really get my imagination and creativity going so that I can keep discovering these stories. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps other discovery writers find it. If you don't want to miss out on my next videos, make sure you subscribe. I post videos on Wednesdays about discovery writing, cover design, and self-publishing on a shoestring budget. I hope to see you again soon.